A strange horizon paints itself a violet hue as the sun comes over the horizon on planet Terragoth. And we can see all the other planets: Omicron, Aqua, Ningguez. We can see Astis. Where are we precisely in this solar system? Why is the sun this burning violet hue as it comes over the horizon? Why is there fire raining from the sky on an otherwise temperate planet? Why are there bats flying through the air? This is the most strangest of worlds. Why? Because this is an entirely custom planet, actually, that has been created from scratch by yours truly. Hi folks, this is Zero from First Ascent to Legend. We are here today on Terragoth. This is the map. It is a temperate difficulty 4, breathable atmosphere, not very high atmospheric content, but more than enough. 35% actually seems a little high, but current mean temperature, gravity, look at that, 0.76. We have every resource: iron, cobalt, copper, silicon, magnesium, neodymium, sathium, and promethium. Not very much promethium. That was my curveball to make the planet not too easy. We don't want you to be able to like hang out here forever and ever. And no, it won't stay this purple hue forever, actually, once the sun comes up over the horizon. This is just the sunrise color that you're seeing here. But we're going to get into it, and we're going to show you guys how to do everything that I've done here. This planet is basically a mix of everything from Ningguez to Omicron to Aqua to, I don't know, pretty much whatever I saw when I was looking through the files that I'm like, hey, I like this on this planet, and I decided it would look good here. So this is going to be our how to create a custom playfield and planet tutorial. Welcome. And follow me for the next few minutes as I explain some very, very boring coding stuff. Alright, well, this is outside of the game, as if you can't tell. We're going to just basically kind of go through this quickly. I'm going to, instead of boring you by dragging you through all of the separate things and having you watch me physically set everything up, I'm just going to go over the basics here. Okay, for starters, everything that's being used in this game is written in YAML. There's a thing right up here, see? This is one of the most important things that everyone misses. This line right here that says, YAML files use spaces as indentation. Please don't use tabs. This actually took me, I don't know, an hour or so to figure out when I first started doing this because I didn't actually read the directions up top. So if all else fails, you know, pay a little bit of attention to the directions up top because that's very helpful. And another thing, I'm using Notepad++, as you can see, to edit these files. It's free. Get it. If you're going to do any of this stuff and you don't have Notepad++, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what you're thinking. When you load up the files, click Language, click YAML, and it'll do this. It'll show you the actual markup. It'll highlight things like these are parameters, these are comments, these are variables that contain values, etc., etc. I'm not going to bore you with all of this stuff because I, quite frankly, don't really understand all of it myself. I don't code in YAML traditionally. My job has me doing, you know, C#. I use some XML, which is close-ish to YAML, but yeah, even that is fundamentally different. But yeah, so we're going to start here in the sectors, because this I think is a good place to start explaining. Now, anytime you make a custom planet, you're going to have to add the planet itself and then assign parameters to it. Like, creating a custom planet is literally as simple as we can copy and paste this whole chunk right here. We can hit enter, paste it here, change these variables around, and select any of the existing things. I created custom planet here, but I could have easily used an existing one like alien or temperate too. Like if you have an existing biome that you like the snow one for instance, I could create a new planet, you know what I mean? Like here we could create this called Snowland, and I could put snow here. And I could leave true for it being a starter planet, or maybe I don't want it to be a starter planet. I delete that and just leave it empty. We could leave this as just regular moon. My custom moon isn't really all that different. We could be like Snowland Moon. You know what I mean? And say I want, let's see here. This leaves a little cluster of space asteroids around it. Here, let's do the space asteroid ring. Is there an aqua one? Aqua, here we go. I like this one. So I'm trying to copy this one down here. So we could go in space asteroid field ring, right? And then we'll call this Snowland Orbit. I'm just naming it whatever the heck I feel like naming it, by the way. It doesn't really matter. So yeah. And then that's about it. I'm just wondering why it's not indenting this. Probably because I merged. It thinks that this is a merge here. Because this, again, this is where the indents come into space. This is why I have it marked up in YAML. Because right here, you could see how it thought this was all one thing because I had spaces which it took as an indent, which means it's still part of the existing. I'm not going to go into this, but pay close attention to this because if it's right, if you do it right, you can collapse it like this. If you don't have this set as YAML, it won't show you these things like errors. Another thing is if you have a tab, see how it does this thing? If you see this in your code anywhere, the game is going to look at this and think this is a break. So no tabs, just don't hit tab. And when you be very careful when you copy and paste because a lot of times it just assumes that you meant to tab. Now these are the coordinates X, Y, and Z, I believe. We're going to just change this to, I don't know, -5. Is there another -5 here anywhere? There's a +5, 20, 30, blah, 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 blah. So that should be empty space. And then I will make this, basically, it's easy enough if you just choose, you know, values that haven't been used yet. We'll make this -15. There you go. We'll copy the color of right here. Where's aqua? There we go. So we have aqua. We're going to copy the color. No, that's, yeah, there we go. So we're going to copy the color from aqua, and that should be good. Because we don't really care. This is just for SNGs, right? So there we go. We're leaving the icon a circle because it's a planet. You'll have other ones up here like the trading post, which uses a different one, and I think there's the option of like a square or hexagon or something, but I don't use any of that. I'm not playing around with it that much. That is just the icon that the orbit field shows on the map when you get into the game, basically. So this I think is just like the color of the planet or whatever, or the color of the playfield. It might even just be the color of the icon. I don't really know. I played with this because it's there and it doesn't hurt. Now these are RGB values, I should also mention. So if you want a specific color, we're not looking... Normally if you look up an RGB color, say you want like deep blue or something, it's going to give you values in 255, 255, 255. These values are for between 0 and 1. So if you're going to say if you want a specific color, you need to convert that from 255 to 1. So in this case, 0 being equal to 0 and 255 being equal to 1, say your number was 128, which is half of the 256 values, it would be 0.5 in here. So you'd have to do the math. I'll leave that up to your own personal intelligence, basically. But since we've said all this stuff, let's save it real quick, and then we're going to go into the game, and we're going to go visit Snowland, because that's the name of the place that we made. All right. So we will see you in game. All right, Space Cowboys and Girls, we are here. We are in the game. We're gonna, just for the sake of just showing you this, we're gonna call it new game, no seed, creative, empty world. We're gonna start on Aqua. And that, you know what? Omicron orbit, because I know it spawns us next to a ship. This way we can get into whatever crappy ship's there and actually fly around Snowland and show you what it looks like. By the way, since we're in creative, there's no seed, it's just going to use the default creative mode seed. Let's see, where's our fuel tanks? Yeah, I think we've got enough. It's fine. we're not going to be here for that long now. For the purposes of just actually doing a proper tutorial, I'm going to show you how to actually get there, since if you're not just doing this, you're going to need to actually check your planet a lot. And I mean a lot. Now where's Snowland? There's Snowland, see? You can lock the target and everything. Snowland appears on the map. There's Snowland, see? Where's the little thingy? There's Snowland. No, there's Snowland right here, see? So there's your coordinates. That was were the coordinates that we put in. This uses, you know, the Y, Z, and then our X, Y, Z, and one of them is how high it is above the rest, and blah 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 blah, and that's going to affect where it appears in the sky depending upon what planet you're on. See, there's the alien outpost. That's one of the icons. There's the trading outpost. That's the triangle. There's the diamond one for the asteroid field, and these are all circles. See, there's the color of Cimarron. I chose the purple one. That's the color of the icon. This is the one for Snowland. I copied from Aqua and Oskutun, which actually use the exact same ones. I probably should have copied the snow one from Ningwes and made it a snow color, see, like this, but this was for just S and Gs. Alright, now, to get to Snowland in creative, since we're not actually trying to get there via game, fair thing, warping, etc., we just want to go there and check it out and make sure that it's right. So you want to type in sector, and then the name of your sector, Snowland. That I think you can actually put Snowland orbit and it'll do the same damn thing. Now if you're here, we can actually take a look. Now we've created basically a copy of Ningwes. It probably, being that it uses the same seed and the same random gen algorithm, will be an exact copy of the creative mode Ningwes. There's the moon that we created. Here's the space asteroid field ring. By the way, I should have mentioned that being that all of these things are designed as props, the props are designed to be located in the middle of the actual playfield. Let's actually show you this real quick. Basically, I don't know if this is going to show up on the video here, but if you see, like, the planet and the asteroid field ring have the same coordinates because the ring is designed to go around the planet. So the center of its I don't know, virtual object or whatever is located at the same point that the planet's center is. So instead of let's just playing around here, we'll just do this. Teleport Snowland. And we can use the console to teleport to Snowland, which is just basically, you know, basically Ningwes. See? This is an exact copy of Ningwes, down to everything. Now there are bits and pieces in the playfield thing that determine, like, look, we have green water here, right? We have the pine trees. These are the type of trees that spawn. The ground is flat with little divots in here and little puddles. That's actually even in there too, because when you define the biomes, you define how the biomes spawn, you determine what type of ore shows up here, how often, the size of the nodes, all of that. We're actually going to go now and show you how to create a custom playfield, and the last step here is going to be applying said custom playfield to a custom planet. So we're going to hop out and we're going to show the custom playfield thing. I'm not going to go through all the boring stuff and type in everything and have you guys watch that, because that could take, I don't know, upwards of an hour depending upon how detailed you want to be. So we're just going to go over and we're going to explain some things and we're going to drop off some helpful hints and remind you not to use tabs, basically. And we'll leave you to your own devices after that. So we will be back in a few. Back to Notepad. Alright, we are back. Now, here is where it gets kind of interesting. And when I say interesting, it's a combination of boring and actually interesting. Depends on how much you're into this type of thing. So here's the playfield. I've also gone in and set it to YAML. This has some instructions up top. It reminds you not to use tabs. This is really, really important. I know I've already said this, but seriously, don't use tabs. It will F your entire game up. And it gives you weird error messages that make it really difficult to decipher at times, depending upon what you've done, where the tab is, Usually it'll tell you that there's a break or something like that where it shouldn't be or something. The error message that pops up when you load the game is usually because of your actual playfield, and you can copy that directly into Google and search for it, and there are lots of helpful bits and pieces. That's actually how I kind of finally narrowed this down. I ran into a couple of errors. But without further ado, let's actually go over some of this. A lot of these don't actually have any functionality. They do things. They change stats on the planet and whatnot, but they don't, they don't actually affect anything in game other than stats on a window, basically. Like the temperature has no effect on this. The atmosphere density actually does. It says please don't change, but you can actually change this. This will actually affect how. Basically, it affects the range that your guns have, because your bullets can only fly so far in dense atmosphere given the amount of force that is applied to them when they are fired out of the gun. The atmospheric density slowly wears them down, and the thicker the atmosphere, the shorter they're going to go before they're not effective anymore. So the gravity, I chose 7.5 because this was like a kind of a medium range. I wanted it to have lighter gravity than Earth, which I think is like 9.8 meters per second or something like that. But I didn't want it to be too light, like the moon, which is like 4 point something. I don't know. It's much less. It's like less than half of that of Earth or something. I don't really know. Some astrophysics nerd's probably going to see this and correct me. Listen to him when he does. So most of this up here is kind of useless in the long run. I don't touch these things. If I'm going to touch them at all, I copy them from an existing file because I don't really know what these do. I know this has to do with how we take the square map and wrap it around a round map. So I try not to F with it. I'm assuming that these two have to have a ratio of some sort because of the whole pi thing. So I'm not doing the math for this. I leave that alone. Breathing without a helmet. This is the one thing. I set that to true on mine so you could actually breathe. Take your helmet off, conserve some oxygen, because I made the planet very hard and I didn't want to add oxygen to the mix. If you wanted to make the planet even harder, you could just do that. We have the important thing here is going to be the sea level, because later you're going to set at what altitudes certain biomes render, and you're going to set the default texture for a lot of altitudes, and if you don't match it up to your sea level, it's going to look really awful. Also, I've noticed, and I'm going to scroll ahead a little bit real quick. We'll go right back up to the top in a minute. I've noticed this down here, temperate, there are some sort of settings saved that actually have like optimizations attached to them. Like if you set the water level to a different level than the level that is set on the temperate planet, you'll get weird artifacts. Like from a distance, it's going to look like there's water, but as you get closer and it renders the actual terrains that's there, it could be land. Or it could look like land from a distance and you'll get close and it turns out to be water. So you have to keep in mind that whatever temp terrain thing you set here is going to affect your planet pretty heavily. Like you have to at least match the general sea level, you know what I mean, to the terrain type that you're using in this terrain section down here. That's important. Just keep in mind if you create a custom playfield and you're getting weird things from a distance or whatever, it's related to your playfield and the water level, and also probably has something to do with the textures you're trying to apply. So if you use, like, for instance, the alien planet and try to apply aqua stuff to it, you know what I mean? Like, you know, actual temperate planet type of information, it's going to look really weird from a distance because it's going to look like Maspron from a distance, but then you're going to get close and it's going to pop in and look like, you know, aqua stuff. So try to at least keep it somewhat close. Yeah, so let's move on. I'm going a little too into detail over this. Just keep that in mind when you're doing this. Now, this allows you to set whether people are allowed to shoot each other there. The difficulty level is going to have to do with how hard, obviously, the planet is, but this also affects whether you can have infinite drone waves. If I recall, if the planet isn't at least difficulty 4 or 5, you will not get infinite drone waves there, and it also apparently affects your experience gains. I haven't really noticed this, but I'm just going to take the developer's words for this. Playfield type planet, I leave it alone. Description, you can change this. I made a custom one to match the new settings for the temperature and the gravity and all that other stuff. I put unknown planet because I wasn't feeling particularly inspired that day, so I just, whatever. The sun flare effect, purple. This is that purple flare effect I was describing in the very beginning of the video because, I don't know, I like purple and I just friggin' stuck it there. I kind of went with that as a theme. As you notice, like the icon on the map is purple and blah, 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 blah. Because I left it purple because I figured that will depict that this is not one of the existing playfields. Now the special effects, now these are the things that you see where you get like, the fireflies or the, the butterflies that you'll see at certain areas and certain biomes. Now, this is the effect. The dandelions few are the ones, if you've ever seen, like you see like the little wispy seed things with the white whatever, like they look like dandelion seeds floating through the air. This is an effect, right? This determines what time of day they're going to show up. These are the type of biomes, which we're going to set all the biomes down at the bottom. This particular, parameter gets a little ahead of us. We'll go into this in a bit. The max height, now the game seems to, now if anybody hears something I say and wants to correct it or add more information or elaborate in the comments, please feel free to do exactly that. I would love any extra information, and if I say something wrong, feel free to correct me. But as far as I can tell, this max height thing the game uses from 0 to 255 is the range on the vertical axis, basically. 0 being the lowest, 255 being like the threshold between the sky and outer space, as near as I can tell. I could be wrong, the range could be higher than that, but this basically gives you the max height at which any of these particular special effects are going to be rendered. So since most of the good stuff like the plains and the forest don't on mine, I can't really go too heavily into detail without actually going down to it. But these are the POIs. Here we go. We have mountains, higher altitude, flat, forest starts at 52. So I figured the forest, I'm going to want other things to show up there. On the open plains, though, which kind of only goes up to 50-something, I'm going to want to see those fireflies. So I put the fireflies around 50-ish. You can tweak these and play with them later or whatever. The meteor showers, I showed you in the video. This is the height at which they spawn, and they'll come all the way down to the ground as long as, this shows you whether they will avoid structures or not, whether they're allowed to spawn above structures. Avoid basically means that, you don't want meteor showers on that planet coming down and hitting a player's base and effing that player's base up. Because I've noticed meteor showers will actually do damage to the terrain. I'm assuming they do damage to someone's, I don't know, home base as well. So I left that alone. Struct, avoid for the thunder and lightning red. That's another thing that shows up on the planet. I didn't show it in the video because I didn't feel like waiting around and trying to find it. But trust me, it's cool. The bird flock bats. Those are the bats that I showed you as well. These just have certain parameters, the distance at which they spawn from players, the height at which they spawn, how long between when you start playing the game and when they first spawn in-game hours, not in real life hours, so it won't actually be 30 minutes. It'd probably be however long, half of however long an in-game hour is, obviously. There's the delay, in-game hours between when one spawns and another spawns. The lifetime, how long they live in real-time seconds. I think 600 seconds is like 3 or 30 minutes or something. I don't know. I can't do the math. 60 seconds, blah, 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 blah. So 10 minutes, give or take. So in real-time seconds, so they'll spawn after about a half an hour in-game. They'll hang around for about 10 minutes, and then, once they disappear, 4 in-game hours will pass before another group of bat spawn. That's the idea. And these are allowed to spawn over structures because they can't hurt the structures. Now, feel free to speed this up or skip through this if I'm going too much into detail. If I'm not going into enough detail, feel free to ask me, by the way, in the comments. I will try to elaborate on anything you feel I have not explained thoroughly enough. Some of the stuff I'm kind of glossing over because I really don't understand it myself. Atmosphere color. This is going to determine the color of the atmosphere. I kind of set it to more towards the purplish spectrum. This starts with red, green, and then blue. I think currently this one's just using a blue sky because I tried to make the sky look more purple and it looked weird. The whole game had a purplish, like I like things looking kind of purplish for the sunlight, sunrise and the sunset. That looks cool, but when you get into the game and even the ground looks purple, it's stupid. I don't know. It breaks the immersion thing for me. So I kind of went with a more bluish color than anything. The sky color, again, bluish, but more towards like the purple blue range of things. I forget the exact colors I used here. I converted from the 255 RGB things and then just stuck the decimal values in here. So these are colors between 0 and 1. If you want it to just be plain white, just use what's here and it's going to look really weird. A plain white sky just looks weird. The daylight intensity, I put it to 1.5 because I don't like it when it's not really bright. Values above 1 are going to look a little washed at times if you're not careful, especially if you have the gamma in the game turned up or something like that. Nightlight intensity, I don't like it when it gets so dark you can't see at night, so again, the nightlight intensity is a little above normal. I do realize that this is not between 0 and 1, but if you look in some of the other Playfield files, which I highly recommend if you're going to go through all this trouble, these are some examples. They go like this, so I kind of chose... I don't know if I copied these directly from other game playfields, but I might have pulled the idea for that value from another playfield. You know, like I think the nightlight intensity probably wasn't 1.5, it was 1.2 or something, and I changed it 1.5. This might have been 1.3, and I might have upped it. I don't know. So I played with this a bit. I set the daylight shadow strength a little higher, I think, than the playfield I copied from because I thought that would look cool. There's the horizon color. It gets a little... I don't know, dimmer, but it still stays like the bluish color on the horizon. Like this is all stuff that basically affects the light. Now, fog, I thought looked neat on Maspron. So I copied the fog. I gave it a start distance of 500 because I don't want it to be blinding fog, but I still like the fact that there is fog. This is the intensity on the fog. I want it to be there, but you can kind of see through it even at a distance. Again, trying to keep the fog effect, but keep it from being blinding. This is just all basically that depends upon the intensity and stuff. Now this is the ground fog height. If you notice in the videos, the fog really only shows up when you're down in the valleys. It doesn't show up when you're in the tropical forest. It doesn't show up when you're on the, you know, hilly plateaus that were on near the mountains, and it doesn't show up in the mountains. It cuts off. So unless you're down in the valley, if you're in the open plains, you'll get ground fog. That's about it, basically. The idea is it was supposed to be low, but not, you know, not too low. I played with this a couple of times before I got it right, basically. So it shows up at sea level and a little above sea level, and that's it. Because sea level, again, if you remember, referring back up to the top here, is 23. So... clouds, you can play with this as much as you want. I try to give the clouds kind of a purplish look. In case you noticed in that video, the clouds kind of had like a purple tinge to them. They still looked like regular clouds. Wind speed, this doesn't really seem to do anything but affect how quickly the clouds moved. I figured 5 was about halfway, and that's what I went with. The iron resources, I copied these mostly, the resources mostly from, I think the Temperate 2 or Temperate 1 Playfield. You can play with these if you want larger or more common, or, you know what I mean, more, you know, bigger sizes or whatever. You can actually play, you know, play with this, you know, make them bigger, make them, you know, more frequent, etc., etc. Choose how far below the surface they appear. So between, you know, 0 meters below the surface and 2 meters below the surface. That's why a lot of these, when you start digging into the thing, you can actually dig, you know, straight down from the surface, and you'll hit the node pretty quickly. Basically, you could actually set this to be deeper, like 1 in 5 or something like that, and play around with it. I wouldn't mess with it too much unless you really know what you're doing, because it's really not worth it. I mean, a node's a node. It's going to show up. I mean, unless you're really into the building and you want to play with that aspect of the game, I wouldn't mess with it too much. Now, the max drone count I set, default is going to be 1 if you don't have this parameter here. It even says this here. That's why I copied this from the file I copied it from. I tried to copy the things with the comments here. because the comments they really helped me when I was customizing my own playfield. Now this is the probability between 0 and 1 that a drone is going to be guarding said resource. Now keep in mind, there's another section that we'll get into later that tells you what the probability that when you kill a drone, another one's going to come in to replace it, because they do get suspicious when you kill one of their brothers. So the higher the probability that a drone is going to be there is going to make that resource even harder to get to. That's why down here, for instance, neodymium I set to 0.5, magnesium and silicon 0.3, so there's a 30% chance that a drone's going to be there. Now if I really wanted to make it hard, I could go to max drone count and set the max drone count to like 5 for some of these. Like for instance, sathium and neodymium should be more difficult. Or you could put a restrum and Discosium here and set them to 100% probability and set the max drone count to like 10. If you wanted to make it available, but make it damn near impossible to get to on the planet. Just keep in mind, you don't want to do something like that for a starter planet because you're going to spawn in with your pop gun, and if you spawn too close to one of those 100% 10 max drone probability, they're going to rape you, and you're never going to get your backpack back. So don't do that on your server because you'll have very pissed off people on your server. Asteroid Resources, there's the threshold. There's the amount. So basically, once you get below 60% of the threshold, I believe this is going to spawn a resource asteroid. So if there's 10 iron asteroids, when you get down to less than 6, you're going to get one that spawns that has 50% of the suggested resources up here. So this is going to get complicated, but I have it set so that on my planet in the multiplayer field, all of these asteroids will respawn. All of these will respawn with enough to at least get you started, you know what I mean? And pretty much give or take 50% of the size of the asteroids or the deposits, you know what I mean? We're going to get asteroids coming down with at least 50% of that, basically. Now this is where it gets a little complicated, and I'm going to feel really long-winded, so I'm probably going to try to gloss over this a little bit because I don't fully understand some of these things. Like this, I don't really know what this is. This seems to affect the rate at which, I don't know, the atmosphere changes. I don't know. I don't get this at all. The noise strength, I believe, has to deal with the random generation noise. Like when it's hard to explain this, but basically if you have a flat plane and you apply noise to it, that terrain becomes bumpy. And the more noise you apply, the bumpier the terrain becomes. So the higher the noise strength you assign here, the noisier the playfield's going to be. Like if you noticed, I had planes in the clip in the intro, but the planes weren't entirely flat. If I had set this to a more flat value like 0.1, the planes would be flatter, the mountains would be more solid mountains with less variations and stuff. If you actually get into my playfield, you'll see that the mountains are very hilly, they're varied bits and pieces, there's little shelves and stuff like that because of the way I designed the biomes. I played with this a whole bunch, by the way, before I got it right. I copied multiple biomes in, and I had to try and figure out why things weren't working, why, textures were clipping, why certain decorations weren't spawning and stuff like that. A lot of these were copied from existing playfields and then tweaked a bunch, you know what I mean, in order to get what we're looking for. So, without further ado, this is the main biome. These are going to be the textures used by the main biome unless otherwise specified. So if you don't have a set texture applied to that height range, it's going to default to this set of textures. I don't really know what the numbers here are. If somebody knows how to explain this, I believe that's like the probability that that texture is going to be used in that biome, but I don't really know. And I think 0 is a default, just whatever the default value is. Again, I don't really know what these numbers do, so I didn't really play with them too much. I do know that for decorations, this is the probability or the amount you're going to find within a specific section, cluster, clump, node, whatever. So there's a 0.15%, so that's a 15% chance that you're going to find these decorations within a given chunk of the map. 0.003, this means you're very, very rarely going to find these rocks. I believe this is the huge rocks that you'll see in here. Now this is where you get into sub-biomes. This is very, very important because if you don't do this section right, everything is going to look ridiculous in your playfield. Now this is the sea ground. I have this set to 22. again, we'll go back up here and show you that the sea level is set to 23 here, 22, which means the sea ground texture is going to be used up until right underneath the top of the water. Okay, so everything from 0 up to altitude 22 is going to be the sea ground with whatever this is. Again, don't really understand that. You can put decorations in here if you want to have decorations under the sea ground, whatever. That is also further defined farther down because you can actually do biomes separately, but where this is just the textures, this is the default textures, the default decorations for sub-biomes, and this goes by altitude more than biome. Okay, now this from 22 to 27 altitude, so this is a range from just underneath the surface of the water to slightly above the surface of the water. Again, 23 to 27, that's only an altitude of 4. There's your sand beach cliff. This is basically your sandy looking, you know, beach texture. Some rocks might spawn there with varied probabilities up to 27. Now from 27 to 66, we have the cliff and the grass cliff. Now this is the grassy looking area that you see in the grass cliff. I'm not sure, but I think these numbers here for the textures might have to do with the slope. So at a tighter slope, you're going to use, you know, like the cliff texture. At a lower slope, you're going to use the grass texture. That is my assumption. I don't really know. I know with the decorations, these are probabilities. I'm assuming with the textures, these are slants, basically. Like here at a higher slope, we're going to use the brown rock. At a lower slope or whatever with 0 slope, we're just going to use the rock color. So I don't really know. So again, please, if somebody's watching this video and wants to correct what this little parameter at the end of the texture does, I welcome your comments, because I'm just guessing at this point. I'm sure I could look it up, but I'm lazy. So now here is where we get into the complicated crap, and I know I've been talking for God knows how long. It feels like forever here. I'm honestly getting tired of talking, so I'm going to try to go through this relatively quickly. Basically, the biome cluster data, we have underwater here. So this denotes the start of the thing, and this denotes the start of another thing. So pretty much everything in here, from underwater to flat beach, is going to be what happens under the water, basically. Now, from altitude 0 to 3, it's going to use this default, probably, of the sea ground, which overrides the terrain one texture set up here in the main biome. So sub-biome overrides the main biome if it applies, and then the actual biome overrides the sub-biome if it applies. So bear with me. We don't really define textures down here. This is all about basically the name of the biome. So when you're in the map and you're walking around and it says ocean on your mini-map, that's defined right here. So you could make an ocean biome and for all intents and purposes acts like an ocean and just call it desert, really, or open plains or something if you want. But, you know, for the sake of immersion, try to keep this somewhat realistic. So I have ocean here. This has cluster size, number of clusters. I'm assuming this has to do with how big said cluster would be and the number of clusters of like these decorations, for instance, that are going to show up there. These are all the decorations, the coral decorations, the rocks, the crystals, pyramid I replaced because I thought they looked cooler than the straight ones. This is the probability, the numbers you're going to find, you know, the probability you're going to find them down there, how many you're going to find in a given area. Hydrilla, I don't actually know what this is, but I added it there, and then seaweed. I think hydrilla and seaweed are two different kinds of seaweed. I'm not really sure. And then we kind of define the same type of thing down here. Now the grass is something that gets defined. Notice up here we don't have grass because when you go deep enough, I want it to just be like rock bottom. And then over here we define grass. So when you go swimming and you see those patches of grass down, this is defined by this. This is the density with which, you know, how dense, how many of these little grass props are going to be shown in a small area. Lower values will make it seem more sparse. Denser values will make it seem like a field of like seaweed grass on the bottom. I tried to make it relatively dense here for realism's sake. Again, we're defining some seaweed here because at varied depths here we want to find seaweed and hydrilla, which because this is a starting planet, I want lots of seaweed there. because we're going to need it for biofuel. So this was defined with that in mind. Now the flat beach, we defined, I chose the Omicron palms. I thought they would look cool. Corn dog bushes because you're going to need food. And then everything else here is just rocks, basically. Again, grass brown, etc., etc. But you're still, now this is only up to from 20 to 32. This is just like the edge of the beach, basically. Again, we've defined some grass there. And then seaweed, I'm actually kind of not really sure why I have this here because it doesn't seem to work. So this might be an error because this doesn't actually ever seem to populate on the planet. But that might be related to the whole cluster size and number of clusters being 0. I'm not 100% clear on this. I plan on playing with these parameters more and finding out more about them later. But I pretty much went in here and added anytime I saw something that I wanted, for instance, the alien plant. I believe alien bush red fronds is the stuff, the phoenix fern frond or whatever that's used to make the adrenaline shot. These mushrooms are the ones I believe that are used to make, oh wait, no, we're in the open plains. I put them down here in the forest. But yeah, like I went through and I tried to find everything. Mushroom Bell Brown 01, I think this is the one that's used to make the alien plasma. I have higher altitude things decided up here with the corn dog bush, and I think it was the bush green. Somewhere around here, I have, yeah, I don't know. I put the ones up here for the fibers, basically. I copied some of these directly from other biomes and then just added some extra decorations to them. I'm not going to really go too into details from there because that's one of those things that you literally just kind of have to play with, load up the map, visit said biome, see if it spawns the way you like it. If it doesn't, go back, delete your save, you know what I mean? It's a little annoying if you're going to do the playfield. It takes a lot of dedication, and it's usually only something that people who have their own custom servers do. So if you're doing this purely for a single player game and you've continued watching the video up to this point, I commend you. Now we have the POIs down here. I kind of glossed over the rest of the things because I don't really know enough to continue talking about all these biomes. All I know is that you define the altitude. This defines the slope of said biome, which determines how steep this biome is going to be, and so on and so forth. I know that this right here affects the random generation when you're actually generating this. And I believe these IDs up here link to the replacement textures right here. And if you're going to copy the biome texture replacements and apply them, it will optimize the playfield for people playing on the playfield. But getting this right, let me tell you this much from personal experience, is a giant pain in the dick, pardon my French, to get that right. Because if you set the wrong biome texture replacement, it does really weird things. Textures pop in and pop out that shouldn't be there. You have to use the right replacement texture for the right texture for that biome. Because, yeah, it can cause all kinds of problems. This entire section, by the way, you can just comment this out. You can go to edit here and comment, uncomment, single line comment, boom, and comment that entire thing out. It does not need to be there. Your field will not break without it. I am going to leave it here because I went through the trouble of making sure it was right and that it worked properly. Now we have... here we go, mountains, blah, 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 blah. There's the POIs. Now this, I literally just copied this directly from an existing playfield. I like the Ghost Rider defense ones that are found on the moon, so I just copied them from the moon field. I set these to true if they weren't already set to true for everything except for the abandoned mine because it's abandoned. I made sure this was false. I don't want... drone troop transport coming after me if I'm in the Talon village or if I'm in the abandoned mine. Like if you step foot on it or if you attack something on it or break something on it, this little field here determines if the drone troop transport is going to come after you. The minimum and maximum, I assume, is how many might spawn on the map. The crashed ship, we only want 1. Minimum, we don't want more than 1. The Ghost Rider base, this means up to 2, and Ghost Rider defense up to 2 can show up on the map. Talon Village, we only want 1. This is the number of drones that might be there, minimum and maximum, etc., etc. I set it to 1 and 1 for these 2 places, but 1 and 2 for the rest of them, because I want them to be a little challenging. Now the fixed, I am not going to really get into this. This is for like creative mode. It doesn't seem to have a function for anything other than single player games. and currently you cannot set a single player game as a starting planet. So I honestly think this entire section is literally pointless for me to have here, but it's not breaking anything, so I left it in. I copied this from Aqua because I was going to try to set this as a starter planet in single player, but I have learned through the course of doing research and playing around with the code that that is not possible currently, unless you have like Unity engine decompiler and you can decompile some of this stuff and modify. I mean, you could technically do it. I'm not shelling out the some odd $100 for the Unity software development kit, which you can actually get. I don't know how much it costs. I was just guessing it's going to be a couple $100. So now here, the drone base setup. Now this determines the type of drone base you're going to see, the number of drones that are going to be around it, the type of troops that are going to be dropped off when the drone troop transport lands somewhere, if you trigger a drone troop transport troop drop. So if you're attacking something, this right here is going to determine, you know what I mean, the amount, the frequency, how many drone troop transports are going to be there. So if you destroy one, will another one spawn? This is like what comes out of it, the amount, the percentage chance or whatever that. So you're always going to get a male Zyrax. There's a 50% chance you're going to get an one of those assassin monsters. 30% chance you're going to see a crawler, and a 50% chance you're going to see an overseer. So some combination of these four things is going to pop out when you've come down, or when the troop transport comes down and drops things off. These are the types of drones. I went with minigun and cannon ones and rocket ones because I didn't want to make it too crazy. Originally I put like the plasma ones and the large ones, but when you spawn with a pop gun, and I mean it's already a high difficulty planet, I have it set to a difficulty of 5, which these are infinite drone waves. Since this is a starter planet, I went with the low end of infinite drone waves because I want it to be hard but not impossible. Basically, if you want 6 and 7, I would design a 6 and 7 planet and not start there. These are the number of drones that will be around defending the base. Keep in mind, again, there's a reserve count here, so if you kill these defending drones, 4 drones are going to respawn in response to you killing the 3 or 4 drones that are going to show up outside of the base. Now this is going to be the Omicronian drone base, which is nice because that's the type of drone base that's going to spawn on there, and I think the drone base from Omicron looks cooler than the one on Aqua, so I just went with that, even though the planet kind of looks like Aqua. Now drone spawning, I'm not entirely clear on this, but I believe these are the roamers that spawn. So you'll have 5 to 10 roamers that will spawn on the center X. Now I believe from positive this to positive that. So basically on one side of the planet we have anywhere between 5 and 10 that spawn, and they patrol within a 1,500 meter radius, you know what I mean, of this location on the map. And same here. On the exact opposite side of the planet, we have 5 to 10 that will spawn and wander in a 1,500 meter radius of that location. So basically, they'll be patrolling almost the entire planet. There's going to be like a small demilitarized zone on either side of the planet from an X radius, basically, where you're going to be safe and not have to worry about patrols. But for the most part, anywhere you're on the planet, you're going to have to deal with drone patrols. Now, we've gotten down to the creature spawning. I have no idea how long I've been talking for, but I'm going to try to make this quick. This is directly affected as a state here by the biomes you define above. So if you don't have a biome defined as ocean and you put things here that are supposed to spawn in the ocean biome, these creatures are never going to spawn. And vice versa. If you define a biome above and you do not define down here a creature spawning method, I guess we'll call it, nothing is going to spawn in that biome. It is going to be an empty biome. Now here I decided I don't know what cave worms green are. I have not seen them. They're supposed to spawn. I don't know if, I'm assuming, I thought at first these were the slimes, but again, I don't know what a cave worm green is. I haven't seen one. So I don't know if these even work, but I do know the slimes work. They spawn by the ocean, and you saw me oh no, actually I don't think I used that clip. Anyway, islands, these are the higher altitude things that are basically the mountains. I have the ice golems and the spiders spawning. In the mountains I have ice golems spawning. In the tropical forests, I have the hexapons. Those are those hexapods. Those are those six-legged spider things with the little penisy looking head thing that pops up. The spiders O2, those are the ones with the big fat butts. The Otugs, anyone who's ever played a game on Omicron knows what these things are. They're little eyeless nightmares with a huge mouth and a bunch of stabby little mouths coming off. They're freaky looking. There's herds. Oh, these are the cave worms. I remember. These are the ones that patrol on Omicron. You'll actually see these wandering around in a herd. Now, you can, I think, just do cave worms gray, or you can do cave worms gray herd. That's where you'll get like the 3 or 4 of them moving in a group. In the open plains, I have the desert golems, the lizard mules. I have raptor herds. I have the night raptors that spawn only at night. This period shows you that these will only spawn at night. These will only spawn during the day. I believe you can also do any, I believe is the other option. I don't see it here actually. But I think any is another parameter you can put in here, and they'll spawn both during the day and the night. This determines the amount and delay. I don't really know what that does, but I left that pretty much default. I kind of copied these in from other biomes. Now, as long as you've set this whole thing up as you want custom, and it gives you no errors when it compiles, and you have no unwanted tabs, and you've defined every necessary parameter for these, this playfield would now be usable to go back to the sectors as I've had and put custom planet and custom moon. I've also customized the moon. I'm not really going to get into that because really the only thing I did for the custom moon here is I defined the creature spawning. So my custom moon, the only difference between the regular moon and the custom moon is ice golems will spawn on the moon surface. There's only one biome in here, which is the moon surface. So pretty much these things can spawn anywhere on the moon surface at any time. Well, it says nighttime, but, there's more night on the moon than anything, from what I've seen. So, yeah, now that you're done with that, you can go here, you create your custom playfield, as I did. This is my custom playfield, the coordinates 5, 0, -10. I gave it a purplish color for the icon. We have a circle icon. I added the space asteroid field Omicron here. I added the custom planet playfield to... Now this, you can call it anything. This is literally just the name that it's going to get when you look at it on the map. Terragoth Orbit, the name of the planet's Terragoth. I named the moon Cimarron. These are all just names I used to use in like some story I wrote in high school, and I've just used them for like every game, RPG, whatever I've played. So don't ask where I got the names from. That's the story. Yeah. So once that's all set, all you have to do is apply it, save it, and then load the game. You create this will appear when you create a new game. So I will see you in game, and we will check out default Terragoth. All right, we are back. Again, we're going to do a creative empty world. We're going to start on Omicron orbit, so we get that nifty little ship that's next to us, and we're just going to look at the default version of the custom planet and the custom playfield that I just showed you guys how to do. Let's rob this, because we're not coming back here. It's just a platform anyway. Alright. Oh. Let's go to the fuel tank. And let's dump all these in there. Yeah. Good enough. Alright. So, sector Terragoth. Boom! Now this is my playfield, and now as you can see, there's the moon, there's Terragoth. Now it's gonna look really weird because for some reason in creative mode since it doesn't use the seed, it uses whatever you put in the folder, and I put in the folder I'll have to go over this dead last when we get out of here, but there's a map, texture or picture or something that they use that is just like the default non-custom one, and I actually just copy and pasted the .png files and whatnot from the temperate planet. Now as you can see here, here's the asteroid field as just like the one that you'll see outside of Omicron. If we were to fly into this in a survival game, there would be that space station or whatever in there, and you'd have to fight it. This isn't really going to look right, again, because we're in a creative mode, so this planet's not going to look anything from space like it actually looks. So let's get down into it. As you can see, everything kind of has a purplish tint to it because we're right near sunrise. But since the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, we're just going to head west. And we're going to make everything go back to a normal color by heading farther into the actual daytime zone of the planet. Now, as you can see, this is the custom planet. As you can see, it's a bit bumpier than Aqua is going to be because, again, I increased the noise on it. As you can see, everything down below a certain level has a nice thick layer of fog. And you can see right here the textures that I was talking about defining. Just under the sea, you have the sand. It goes up until just under the sea. And then, see, down under a certain point, it's that sea rock texture with the plants. Now, if we were to actually go deep enough, whoa, you can see, oh, this is the worst ship ever. I should have spawned one of my ships. Okay. It's got like one too many RCS units, and it just turns like a beast. But as you can see down here, we have the entire thing. We've got, you know, seaweed that spawns down here. We've got those blue crystals that spawn down here. We've got everything we want. And up to a certain level, everything is foggy. When you're down to or close to the beach, we have the palm trees, right? And then when you get up above a certain thing, as you see, it says ocean. And then we get over here and it says open plains. And then we get up here. And I think if we head this way, it'll say tropical forest, because here's one of the tropical forest biomes I defined. Up here, see, tropical forest. And then if we get high enough, like up here, okay, we're in the open plains again, but if we get high enough here, like we get up here, we have the mountains. Where's the mountains? Tropical forest. There we go, mountains. There we go. Now if you can see up here in the mountains, we have corn dogs, we have the advanced alien plasma, see it right here, which is used for making the big health kits. I wanted to make it a really hard planet, but not so hard that you couldn't, you know, get the basic things you need to survive. I mean, I figure if you're going to make it super hard, you should at least add the ability to make health kits and stuff like that. So when you're creating a custom planet, I would seriously recommend to keep the playfield in mind as an entire playfield. You know what I mean? If you're going to make it more difficult, you need to make things in there so that players aren't going to get in and rage. It shouldn't be Nintendo hard. You know what I mean? It should be hard enough to, you know, supply a challenge, but not so hard that it's impossible to survive. I mean, it's a survival game, but it shouldn't be so difficult that you have people rage quitting, basically. Now that's the moon. Look at the moon. Ooh, pretty. But if you actually fly around, we can see, you know, all around. Now, I believe there's a way to make the planets, or not the planets, the mountains higher and stuff like that. And I'm going to play around with this more, and I might even do a more advanced tutorial at some point to show, like, specific tweaks to the biome and whatnot. But I'm not really there yet. I just wanted to kind of show you the basic, like, hey, here's how to create a custom planet. Hey, here's how to create a custom biome. Or not biome, playfield. Here's how to apply it to a planet, etc., etc. So I showed you how, I showed you how to create a custom planet using an existing playfield. I showed you how to apply it. I showed you how to put it into your game so that it shows up when you create a new field. I also showed you how to create a custom playfield from scratch. I showed you how to put decorations in various biomes. I showed you how to apply various textures. There's a whole bunch of stuff if you're going to mess with a playfield that can go wrong. So just keep in mind that it's going to be a difficult process. It's going to require testing on your part, or it might look really funny. Like, I would get in, if you're going to create a custom playfield, be prepared to actually play on that for a little bit. You need to do a test run. I mean, Alien developers, they have people specifically who test these things out. I mean, there's probably a guy who's in charge of creating these playfields, who's in charge of handling all the decorations, who's in charge of determining what spawns on a planet, you know what I mean, balancing the difficulty of various planets and whatnot. And these people have testers that go in and play on it, not to have fun, but to just, I mean, you go in and you do what I'm doing right now. You fly around and you make sure all the textures go together properly. You make sure that the biome is spawning decorations that where they should. For instance, you don't want seaweed appearing on the shore. You know what I mean? You don't want trees spawning under the water. You don't want textures clipping weird. Like, I had an issue where like everything would work fine up till here, but then between, you know, where this green grass ended and like right up to about here, I'd get this ugly brown texture in between them, and it took me a while to figure out that it was the default texture that I had put in for the planet was this ugly brown thing that didn't match anything. And like even right here, you can see there's little bits and pieces that aren't perfect. Like this, I don't know why this is happening. This doesn't happen in regular random gen games that I've seen so far, but this could be a potential issue. You know what I mean? So I might have to go in and play with my settings a little bit more to actually get it right. So I think I have rambled on long enough. I think I've covered all of the bases. If you guys see in any of the if you guys see anything when you're watching this video that you feel I could have gone over better, please leave a comment, please like, please share with your friends. I've noticed so many people asking questions about this, and no one's really done a definitive, in-depth thing. I apologize. I know this video is going to be like an hour long, but it really... It's the kind of subject that takes probably way more than an hour to go over, and I kind of feel like I glossed over some things. I kind of feel I could have gone into more detail. If you agree, tell me what you wanted to see more detail on, and I'll even do another video if you guys want. So if you like this, please share. I'm going to be putting this up on the forums to share with all the people who play the game, all the people who run servers and are trying to create their own custom planets. That's why I did this. So I appreciate anyone who's managed to sit through this entire video. I hope this helped you. Yeah, we will see you guys in the rest of the playlists here. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends. Tell me how awesome I am down in the comment, or tell me how crappy or how much rambling I did, or how I should have rambled about other things. And I do check the comments, guys. So actually the whole reason I'm doing this video is because I checked the comments and somebody asked me to do this video. I've been asked on the forums, I got asked a couple of times on my YouTube channel, so I'm just doing what the people wanted, alright? So until next time, Space Cowboys and Girls, this is Zero, signing off, and hoping that this helps someone somewhere.